What drew me to support this specific legislation is that it was addressing a major problem that New York faces, that people all over the world are facing. How are they going to pay for the large cost associated with climate change? The Climate Superfund bill is a very well-designed bill, designed to shift some of the burden of the costs of adapting to and responding to the enormous damage of climate change to the fossil fuel companies who are largely responsible for climate change, because we know that climate change is a result of greenhouse gas emissions, and they are one of the major sources of greenhouse gas emissions. All in all, as an economist, I look at this bill and I say it's a great bill because it addresses a very important problem. How are we going to pay for the enormous costs imposed on our society by climate change? It's going to be expensive. It's going to be very expensive. It's only fair that the cost be borne by those who caused it. And we know who's to blame. Sometimes there are some changes that occur that don't know who's to blame. But in this case, science has been very clear. It's the increases in greenhouse gases in our atmosphere that are responsible for climate change. And who are the companies that have contributed the most to the increase in greenhouse gases? Are coal, oil, and gas companies. Americans are already paying billions of dollars for reflecting the cost, the damage, adapting to the impact of climate change. They're going to be paying billions and billions more. When we're talking about billions, we're talking actually about hundreds of billions of dollars, 1% to 2% of GDP every year. This is a big deal. This is not chump change. And the question is, who should pay for it? And it's clear that if we can identify somebody who is responsible for that, it makes sense. It's fair that they pay as much as they can. Now, in this particular case, when you say as much as they can, the people who perpetrated the problem are the very rich oil companies. So they can pay, and they can certainly pay much more than they are paying. I understand why people are concerned about their energy bills. Life is tough. This is a remarkably well-crafted bill, designed in a way that it will not increase energy bills, gasoline bills, or anything like that. There are two fundamental reasons why that is the case. The first is, and it's very important, it's based on their past contributions. It isn't based on their current production, and current prices are related to current costs, not something that happened several years ago. And so the basic economics, we say, Ec 101 would say the design of the tax is deliberate to make sure that it is not passed on to consumers. But there's a second argument, which is broader. The price of oil, price of gasoline, is determined nationally, globally. This is a New York State tax that is, relative to the size of the industry, minuscule. And the result of that is that what happens in New York won't have any global impact on prices. So New York residents can rest assured. There's actually a third reason that I perhaps should mention, which is the way the tax is levied in proportion to their contribution to the mess we have with climate change, to their greenhouse gases over a period some years ago. And there's a threshold. So there are many companies that will not be affected at all. And in competition, these are the companies that will drive prices down. So it's designed to make sure that the competitive pressures are still there, keeping prices down. The oil companies have done very, very well, not only over a long period of time, but most particularly since the pandemic. They've made windfall profits, not because of anything they've done, but because of events well beyond the control of any of us. The war in Ukraine resulted in oil prices increasing 50%. Thank goodness they've come down from that peak, but during that period, they were raking it in. They can afford these taxes, which I think are much too small, but they can afford these taxes, the big companies, only being levied on those who contributed in the past large amounts to greenhouse gas emissions. And so it's hardly going to make a dent in their profits, in their dividends, in their share buybacks, in the excessive compensation they give to their CEOs. On the other hand, for New York citizens, it's going to make a big difference because the money that they are paying would otherwise have to be paid by ordinary New Yorkers. Well, you're asking these people who caused the problem to pay a little bit, not very much, pay a little bit. It seems fair. And to do it in a way that they can't, what we call in economics, shift the cost onto others. And the way they shift the cost is raising the prices. Won't happen. It's designed to make sure that the prices don't increase in New York State. So the people who are really going to bear the tax are the people who really caused the problem.